first I'll have you talk about what first happened a year and a half ago.
Okay. So it was about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, that I had my first suspicion that something wasn't right. My doctor said, we want to get you a colonoscopy. So I went, had a colonoscopy, they found some polyps, and ultimately had a couple more colonoscopies, which led to a surgery where they had to go in and take out some more larger polyps. And then ultimately that summer of 2019, they did a partial colectomy, which is removing some of the colon, and I thought, all right, that's great, that's done with. And then COVID happened, or COVID continued, and work like crazy. I was supposed to go for a follow-up colonoscopy, and that kind of fell by the wayside. This November of 2021, I saw my doctor, and he inquired about the follow-up colonoscopy, and I said, oh, I haven't got that done. He said, you need to get that done. So I went, had that done, and they discovered that I had a 50 millimeter mass in my colon, which is about the size of a lime. So then that kind of cascaded into chest, pelvic, abdomen CT scans to determine if there had been any spread of the tumor, which thankfully there was no spread, so it was relegated to solely in my colon. That, of course, led to surgery January 18th of this year to take my colon out and the cancer with it. I then had to have about a 6-week temporary ileostomy bag on the front of my abdomen here. And I just went only a week and a half ago to have that bag taken off, the surgery reversed, and all the plumbing reconnected. The colon surgery back in January, that one was, again, pretty not bad. I mean, I woke up and I had some pain, but it was really manageable. And, you know, by the time they got me up in a recovery room, I was walking around just breezing through the hallways like nobody's business. But this surgery, most recently, where I went in and they reconnected everything and took off the bag, has been probably the most painful of all. And there were days in the hospital that just trying to swing my legs over the side of the hospital bed was like really just grinding pain in my abdomen. Yeah, a colostomy bag is, it's a trip having that attached to your body and like looking down and seeing like a little pink nub sticking out of your belly, which basically is expelling the waste from your digestive system into a bag. And every day, you know, 7 or 8 times a day, I would have to go into the bathroom and, you know, you pop it open with like a little Velcro closure at the bottom and you have to empty it out. And, you know, it takes some getting used to, but I mean, by week 4, week 5, week 6 of having that thing on there, you know, it would be no different than going into the bathroom and undoing your belt and your, you know, your zipper. You know, it didn't really take that much longer. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I didn't want to have that thing on me forever by any means. I was very happy to go back in and have it taken off. Telling my family is easy because I'm pretty open and mostly everybody has heard or knows about what I had to go through in the last year or two. But this time around it felt a little different because now it was like, oh, you literally have a tumor like growing inside of you. So I was a little more concerned. I was a little more on my heels, you know, backed up a little than maybe previously.
So he texted it. So he texted us in a group, and I don't know. It's kind of not expected. I wasn't necessarily surprised because I know, you know, we have the history of it. So in the last few years we've kind of talked about it and in general. And then when it happened, I was not necessarily surprised. I was like, all right, I guess he has to do this. We have to do this. So, but we have the history of it, so it wasn't too surprising.
A couple different reactions, honestly. More like a combination of kind of anger, a bit of disbelief, and you know, it's just one of those few that kind of just combine between all those emotions.
And I know how to react because you just were kind of like laughing it off. I was kind of sitting there. I think I went on my phone to try to, like, I know how to react to it at the time, so I was just kind of taken back.
When he called me, so many thoughts were going through my mind, and one of them was like, oh, no, this can't be happening, not again. And thinking about his father, what he had gone through with the chemo, and I just didn't want him to go through all of that.
So my dad, he had prostate cancer. I never met him, so he passed away when I was a year and a half, so not even 2 full years. So everything I know of him is either through pictures or you know, videos, VHS, and just stories that, you know, they told, or, you know, my family or my brothers or my mom, or you know, they've told me. So that's all I know of my dad. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
Well, in the May or June of '89, well, they found polyps in his colon after a colonoscopy, and he did have surgery. He removed all of his large intestines. They removed it, and in the meantime, the doctors found the pancreatic cancer, and that had metastasized to the liver. Yeovavu did a lot of research on his own. He always wanted to find if there was new treatments for the cancer that he had and then he looked into having a liver transplant. And it took a lot of his time going to different doctors in Roger Williams in Rhode Island and also in Boston. And he kept on, keep on being his own advocate, always checking and researching. And then he came to the point to realize that, hey, you know, they can take my pancreas out, but I need a liver. I can live without the pancreas. So he wanted to have a liver transplant. But the insurance company at that time, which was Riga, did not approve. They didn't want to pay for the surgery, which it could go, who knows, $100,000 or more. And he fought them. He fought the insurance company over and over and over, and to the point that he put it on the paper. There was an article on the paper about it and what his struggles had been up to that point as far as, you know, doing the research, what it would take for the surgery, which it would involve a very long process of the surgery. Would be part of, you know, they would take his colon, of course, a lot of his colon, but they would take part of his stomach and the pancreas and do the liver transplant. And he knew that was risky, but he wanted to anyway. We went to Pittsburgh. There was a doctor, Monaco, I think it was, in Pittsburgh that when he heard that all of the struggles Tom was going through. And the only place that was doing this big surgery was Pittsburgh in the country. It was one of the only places that did the surgery, and he did research on that, the doctors that were doing it, and we did go there for a week of evaluations. And after all of that and fighting with the insurance company, they did approve. They approved the surgery. He got put on the list, had his little beeper, and I got pregnant. And that we didn't expect. And at this time, he went through a period of remission, and this time he was doing really good. He had gained weight, so he was at a point that it would be okay to have the surgery because he felt good. And then the call came, which I believe was March 3rd of 1992, that they had a liver for him. And when that call came at 1:30 in the morning, I knew that that was the hospital, and I left. I left the room so Tom could talk with them, and he did, and he declined. He told them to give it to the second person that was in line, and he talked with them for a while, and he explained it to them that I was pregnant, I was due in a couple of months, and he knew how risky the surgery was going to be, and that the chance of him coming out of the surgery was very slim, so he wanted to be there to see his child being born. And that's what happened, so he declined it. And Mark was born August 3rd of 92. And he was healthy for a long time. And this is now going into February, March of 93. They did start chemo again, and it's just this time just didn't do anything. He lost the battle. He got really weak and wasn't eating. And this is getting to September, October. Was different. This time it was different. I think he knew deep down that he wasn't going to recover. But I was in total denial all through this time. Nope, I really didn't think that he was going to die. A lot of the times he would joke around, when I die, make sure you do this, you do that, you do that. He always showed me how to do everything so I wouldn't have to call anyone to help me. Tom always took care of the pool, always. But the last year, it was time to open the pool. He's like, no, you do it. I'm not gonna do it. I would tell him, no, why? When I die, you're gonna do this all on your own. And I'm like, Tom, I'm not doing it. Well, he did make me do it, and I did. And when it was time to close the pool, all right, you're closing the pool, do it. I'm like, I'm not doing it. You're gonna be fine. Well, I did do it. How many times did after he died, did I thank him for showing me everything between plumbing, changing new fixtures, light fixtures outside. I wanted a new light for months, and I did have the light at home, but he was so sick he couldn't do it. And then one day he goes, okay, let's do the light. Yeah, let's do the light. He sat on the steps and he goes, go shut the circuit breaker. I'm like, Tom, I'm not gonna do it. Go shut the circuit breaker off. And I did. And I did do the whole light all by myself. Tom always took care of the bills and everything, you know, financially, he just took care of everything. But when he first had the surgery in July of '89, he said, look, I'm going to be in the hospital, you have to do the budget. I'm like, I'll do the month of July, but that's it. Well, that was it. I did it from that time on. He wouldn't take over because he's like, no, you're doing a good job, I'm not doing it. But my point here is that he showed me how to do everything that after he died, it wasn't overwhelming because I already knew, he already showed me, and it wasn't more, what would you say, pressure on me. It wasn't as hard. And the focus was just mainly on your uncles. The focus was taking care of them. And he used to say all the time, you know, there's a reason God's given us another child, because when I die, he's going to keep you busy. I'm like, Tom, stop it. I hate when you say that. Well, he did. Mark did keep me busy because he was 1.5. Points that there was times that I forgot that he had died. There was one particular time that, this was May, June of '94. He loved eggplant parmesan, and this particular day I had eggplant, and I said, I'm gonna do eggplant parmesan for supper. And I did. And he always got home at 4:30, 4:35. And here it is, 4:45. And I remember thinking, and I even said it out loud, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, Daddy's not home yet. And I'm finishing, and then I realized that he had died. And I just threw everything in the trash, and I just started to cry and just cleaned everything up. And just stopped for a while.
I didn't realize anything was like kind of abnormal for the longest time. I think when I first started realizing it was really 2 times. So one, when, it was me and, my 2 brothers, and we weren't necessarily, whatever, Matt, a couple years older than me, then it's Andrew, then it's myself. So we're all in the same age range, maybe like 5 to 10, So mom, our mom was handling 3 adolescent kids basically by herself. So the one time I really understood that like something was different was we were at a family party, and one of our uncles brought us into a room and kind of like laid the smack down on us and kind of told us to like straighten up and need to be more supporting of mom. And then I remember that it was our Uncle Paul at my cousin's house in Stoughton, and he pulled us into the bathroom and kind of like gave us the riot act. So that was from a very young age I realized, okay, that's a little different. And then the other time would be when we'd go to like school events, and like it was like parent-teacher conferences or like stuff like that, and I would see the other kids with like both of their parents, and it would just be mom, and that's when I realized too, like okay, something's a little off. And then I started to realize like, okay, like, hey, I don't have the father figure necessarily. So that was when I first really, again, I'm not sure if that answers the question or not, but that's when I first realized it, and growing up with it like through school and then eventually. So but even recently, no, in the last few, because again I was living in Pittsburgh, so the couple of times I'd come home, I just started asking more questions to mom, just kind of like point blank questions, like what was he like. We watched last year, we came back, our aunt had VHS videos, and we just played it on they still looked pretty good. They were, a little grainy, but they recorded everything back in the 90s. So being able to see him, kind of how he was, his personality on camera, it was one of like the first times I did, and this was only like last year. Kind of like seeing how he was, how he, my aunts tell stories, my uncles tell stories of how he was, and so I kind of get like just like the secondhand account. So even seeing some of those videos for the first time was really cool. Being able to kind of see how he was in a group of people, and everything that I've been told makes sense. How his personality was. So
it was really, really hard, but at the same time, I had the children to focus on. I had Matthew, Andrew, and Mark I needed to focus on, and as long as I went one day, oh, okay, today is done. I survived today. I'm good. I thanked God at night and said, good, thank you, God, for today, because I did it. And tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going to do my best tomorrow. And one day at a time, that's how I survived. When he was sick and going through the chemo and the struggles and all, and I knew he worried about me. But I always stayed strong. I always blocked it out of my mind. But a lot of the times in the shower, I would just cry and cry, so that way he would know that I was crying, because I didn't want him to feel worse than what he was feeling, to feel sad and to worry about me. Sometimes I would come out of the shower and he's like, are you okay? What's the matter? Oh, I got soap in my eyes again. Or, I'm okay.
And yeah, the second one, there was a time where like we didn't talk about, not having dad around. It was kind of always just like the results. We just kind of lived with it. So I do like in the last few years that, partly it's on me. Like I need to ask, cool, what was it like? What did you guys do? What was he like? Let's go pull the VHS tapes out of the attic or wherever they are and just watch them, and just so I can have a better understanding of it. It was oftentimes I think a hard subject to talk about, and hard thing to bring up, because I don't know necessarily how Matt or Andrew or Mom would react to it. The older I've gotten, just having the conversation is as important. We kind of avoid it because it might be a little awkward or it might be a little difficult to hear. But at the end of the day, it turns out it's better, and we can share it, and I can gain more perspective on what he was like and how it shaped my life. I want to be a better person. I want to be the best person I can be. Mom's only goal in life is for us, me, Matt, and Andrew, Tommy, to be, loving and caring and stick together, and be successful, yes, as people. But Mom's only goal is, she would always just tell us how proud Dad would be of us. Yeah, that would be probably the biggest goal, I guess, for myself. And I know he watches me and stuff. I know he takes care of me, so I miss him. I never met him, but I do miss him, and I know he takes care of me, and he takes care of all of us too. So if I could talk to him, that would be great. But we have an awesome family, so kind of is what it is. But I know I'll see him one day, and I'll be able to meet him, and I'm waiting for that. Not anytime soon, hopefully, but I'm ready for it when it happens.
So I found out the day I graduated high school, so that would have been June of 1989, that my father had tested positive. He had a cancer diagnosis. And then ultimately he held on and persevered until December of 1993. So to me, that was pretty good, considering his doctors at the time only gave him 6 months to live. My brothers, between my dad and his third wife, were all in single digits. They were all under like 7 years old. When my dad passed away, you know, at least I had the benefit of having known him for, you know, 15, 16 years, you know, prior to them. But, you know, when your dad passes away and you're 22 years old, you know, maybe you're not as sad because you had time with him. I'm sure my brothers feel differently because the time they got with him was much shorter, and maybe they feel shortchanged.
You know, we all take it in different ways. We're all a little bit different to the point where we all act in our own mannerisms. I have more of the calm, cool, and collective, and it hits me a lot later. The thing with Matt and Mark, you know, they take it their different ways. Knowing Mark, not understanding since he was so young when my father passed, honestly, that hurts a lot more to this day, just knowing that Mark didn't get to experience life with my dad, and honestly, that hurts the most. You know, me and Matt, we had a lot of good memories between videotapes, you know, hanging out with my father, going on train runs. But just knowing that my brother Mark just didn't have that, it's still pretty hard. It's yeah, that gets to me a lot out of everything still to this day. It's just I feel bad. It sucks. Again, it's unfortunately how life is, and I still feel like it's unfair to him in many different ways, and not only just to us, but out of everything. It's just something I didn't want anybody to go through again with Tom. It's I'm just glad that everything seems to be on the upward swing for it. Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, we all don't like to talk about it, but we will talk about it, or at least some of us. Some of us can handle it a little bit better than others, and I respect them for that. They have every right to really say what they want at whatever time they want. It's just, like I said, it's tough to talk about. I mean, there are days, especially, you know, on my father's birthday, and you know, the day he died. It's hard. I have to say those are some of the two hardest days of the year. And I'm not gonna lie, as well as Christmas, I have a love-hate relationship with Christmas because of the time that it happened. It's just an unfortunate time when it should be a happy and joyous time. I love being with the family. I love doing everything we do with the family. I will absolutely always treasure every minute of that. But still, it's a little bit sour, in my opinion, due to the fact of the circumstances that happened with our family so close to Christmas in that December of '93. I do remember the day my mother came home from the hospital saying that my father died. I remember that day vividly, and I will never forget it. It's pretty much burned into my memory, as unfortunate that it is. Yeah, I remember that day like it was yesterday.
So today is Sunday, March 6th, and I'm actually being discharged from the hospital today. I had surgery 4 days ago, and they reversed my ileostomy bag and reconnected the exterior stoma back to my interior small intestine and all of the other internal plumbing. I have had a significant amount of pain the last 2 days, but in the grand scheme of things, I no longer have stage 2 cancer.
So, as I said, I'm currently 50 years old. The last time I was in a hospital, I was 9 months old when there was a mishap in the apartment that my parents lived in, and my father accidentally broke both my legs. And I wound up in a full body cast after, as my mom tells it, about a half a day of crying when they finally realized that something might be wrong. So yeah, I wound up in the hospital. I don't know how many days I was in there, but yeah, that was the first and only time I'd been in a hospital up until 2020, when I had to go in and have the partial colectomy done. So, you know, when they tell you you have a tumor growing in you and they tell you you're going to go under the knife, there is a little scratch in the back of your head that kind of makes you think, okay, what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if I start bleeding uncontrollably or some other mishap occurs? It happens, you know, people die in surgery. People go in for normal things and stuff goes bad. So anyways, I took it upon myself to prepare a living will and, you know, end of life planning. It was one of those things I've always kind of meant to do, but over the course of like Christmas and leading up to January, I decided that I would like kind of clamp down and, you know, put on paper what I would want done as far as like life support. Do I want to be attached to a machine? Do I want a machine helping me breathe? Do I want to be fed intravenously continuously if I'm in a coma or something like that? And it's kind of weird to sit down and like put that on paper and have that on record, because those are kind of like big decisions that affect not just you, but, you know, everyone else.
I mean, I was thinking about, like, is he gonna be okay? Like, his surgery will probably go fine. I was like trying to research about the surgery that he's getting, stuff like that. I felt good because they all went fine. He was doing much better. Yeah.
Well, I think right now, I mean, I'm looking like 3 years ahead. My oncologist, who I met with about a week ago, basically outlined a very specific plan, urinalysis, blood work, and a different barrage of medical procedures, tests that I'll do basically every 6 months. So I'm pretty confident that even if something does come back, I'll catch it because of diligence.
Yeah, yeah, I'm concerned. Your Vavu, he would always say, make sure you get the boys tested. Make sure you get the boys tested. And I remember one time bringing up to the doctor after Tom had died about your uncles. And he said, don't worry about it. It's not genetic. But they didn't know much about it back then, about Lynch syndrome.
I hope that the Lynch syndrome, which I found out through genetic testing, that I have this condition, it's a genetic mutation that basically dictates I have a much higher chance of getting cancers than the average male. That same possibility, a 50-50 chance, is now going to be passed down to my son and daughter. I hope that neither of them get it, ideally, because, you know, there's enough going on in their lives and in this world on a daily basis that I don't want them to have to, at 50 or 40, have to contend with or deal with, you know, what I've gone through the last 2 years.
And so, considering the fact that Lynch syndrome is a possibility for not only your children, but also your stepbrothers, are you concerned that 2 out of 3 of them have not gotten colonoscopies or genetic testing done yet?
Of course I'm concerned. You know, I can show them the doorway. I can't hold their hands to walk them through it. You know, I need them to be proactive in their own health and, you know, make that decision for themselves. I mean, granted, none of them have kids, so, you know, maybe they just look at it like, you know, I'll worry about it when I'm 40, or I'll worry about it, you know, when I have a child. But, you know, ultimately they should worry about it. They should be concerned and get it checked out.
A bit annoyed by them, to be honest with you, because it's really not that difficult. The process is actually really straightforward. I think the worst part about it was just taking the medicine for it. It tasted terrible. But yeah, I really do hope that they actually do change their minds about that relatively quick to get that taken care of. Because honestly, when you go under the anesthesia, it's pretty much a 1-2. You're asleep, you're awake, barely know what happened. It's something that they should probably highly recommend doing sooner than later.
I can't call the doctor and make appointments for Mark and Matthew. I can't do it. They have to do it on their own. Are they afraid to find out what the results might be? Are they afraid to find out that they carry the gene? Probably, but they keep on saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But this is what, almost 2 years later, and they still haven't. Andrew right away, scheduled a colonoscopy, got all cleared of that. He's planning doing the genetic testing, but the other two are just waiting. I don't know for what.
Matt and Andrew and Mom kind of beat me to it, but they started texting, okay, it's time to go get checked. So normally I'm not, you know, as aware of it, but, you know, 50s, I think early 40s, you know, 50s is when, you know, those checks typically happen. Well, I'm only 29, so it's honestly probably just location. I was just living out of the state I was living in Pittsburgh the last handful of years. So now I'm in Connecticut, so now I'm a little closer to home. It's probably definitely easier to schedule a test, or, you know, like a colonoscopy. So location was probably a big part of it. And then now that I'm a little closer to home, it's just setting up the appointment, whenever that may be. I honestly, at this point, I feel like it's in a weird way going to happen. So it's like, all right, get it taken care of now, or at least get it checked out now. So then I'm not waiting until at this point, there's no chance. You know, me, Matt, Andrew are going to wait until, you know, the normal time.
So when he found out and told the rest of the family, it was kind of a situation where I feel like I had to get checked, because if he had it, we're brothers. It was something that we definitely needed to get done. A little bit of worrisome due to the fact that I have no idea how any of this testing process works and pretty much how to go by it. So luckily enough, Tom did a good job of just giving me a good way to start, a good way to, pretty much good guidance. I guess that's the best way to put it on how to go through it. I can't say it's disappointing, but it's more like I expected it when he was diagnosed positive or with it. I already kind of figured that it was probably going to be in my future, hopefully late future, but it's one of those things that if that's the case, I wanted to start getting checked out as soon as I can, just to get on top of it and way ahead of it. I got one probably a few months after Tom's first diagnosis, because I'm kind of a person that just wants to take care of himself. I like to be sure that I'm not going to be in any type of, I guess, dangerous position in the upcoming future. Luckily enough, my colonoscopy results were pretty positive. They found no issues with it. It was actually done sooner than expected due to the fact that of how just cancer-free it was. They didn't see anything out of the ordinary. So that was a bit of a positive note.
So we were talking about it a little bit, you know, coming into on the train here, of what his diet's going to look like, and I guess chocolate, he needs to avoid chocolate. So yeah, I mean, ideally, as you know, the doctors, I would assume, would know better than we do on like what he's looking at. So, you know, kind of asking too, as long as, you know, exercise, what he can eat, what he can't, what is he looking at? I even asking, like, does it hurt to walk? And he's like, no, I'm fine. So, yeah, no, whatever his recovery is going to be, I'm sure we're going to be texting in the group back and forth, and just texting every other day, being like, hey, how's it going? He can eat ice cream still, so that's cool. for him?
I think he's doing good. He's lost a lot of weight, so I think he's happy about that. I'm happy that he's happy. I think that he'll probably have to like adjust his diet and stuff from now on, so that might affect him somehow.
Feels pretty good to have that, to have him know that he's cancer-free. I know that he's definitely going to have to change his lifestyle, whether it's food, alcohol intake. That's something that you just got to take care of yourself with. Whether it is just, eating concerted pizza way more than we should, but, it's something that he's definitely going to have to look after. And from what I can see and what I've already heard from him, it sounds like he's doing a really good job at it.
I try to eat healthy, and I've been trying to do that for the last couple of years. So with the kind of reconfigured innards I now have, I can't just run down to like the 99 and order some boneless buffalo wings and kick back 3 beers anymore. My breakfast is very regimented. My lunch is very regimented. Dinner for the last 7 weeks is chicken every night with rice, or chicken with mashed potatoes, or chicken with applesauce. Thank goodness I like chicken. But, I can't really have steak. Red meat is kind of the enemy in the digestive system. So, I won't be eating any 16-ounce porterhouse steaks anytime soon. The other drawback of my diet now is, I eat and, from point A to point B, the time frame in which it takes to come back out is a lot shorter now. So that takes a lot of adjusting to, especially balancing what you eat, because if I eat too much or if I overeat, I'm in the bathroom the rest of the day, and that sucks. Well, probably the biggest change right off the bat is that in almost 2 months' time, I have now lost 22 pounds. That's partly due to the fact that I'm not eating as much as I used to. I'm eating much smaller portions. So at night when I sit down for dinner, I'm not eating like a plate of food. I'm eating like that much food. I've had to adjust and deal with the fact that almost every pair of pants I put on now, I'm literally having to drill extra holes in my belts to hold my pants up, otherwise my pants are falling down. I'm also finding that, I still have a bandage here on my stomach, and I'm also finding that when I wear jeans and a belt, it kind of aggravates the wound. But that'll go away with time. I find myself wearing a lot of sweatpants and sweatshirts now, and even then, those look huge on me. I don't drink really at all anymore. Drinking's not good for the healing process, and can actually it hurts like blood clotting. So I think in the last 10 weeks, I think I've had 2 beers.
The main thing that I do think a lot is, even before the second surgery, the main thing that I think about is I don't want him to get to a point that he's going to need chemo. I don't want him to get to a point that it's going to be the struggle that his dad went through. And so that goes in the back of my mind, but then it goes away because I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. And then you guys pop into my head, and you and TJ, I don't want you guys to go through that pain. I don't want you to go through seeing your dad, really sick. I don't want you to go through that. But at the same time, I'm confident that he will be recovering. He feels good. He's had his second surgery. Everything went well, so I'm good. I have a good feeling that everything will be fine.
I don't worry about relapsing because that would indicate like I'm being a pessimist, and I'm trying to be optimistic about this whole thing. I don't want to live life going, oh my God, I could get cancer again next week, next year. If I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. I can't stop living. You know, I still have to go to work. I still have to pay my bills. You know, I still want to make money to go on vacation and have fun. You know, plenty of other people get cancer and lead very fruitful lives. I mean, I still have 2 arms and 2 legs. You know, there are people who have way more worse fates than me. They get a tumor and maybe lose a limb. So, you know, in that regard, I feel pretty lucky.
And then, so overall, how has this entire process made you feel?
I think to some degree it's empowered me. I think it's made me a better individual. I think it's helped clarify maybe some cloudy judgment I've had in the past. I think it allows me to think a little clearer. I think from a physical standpoint, it's got me eating better. It's got me more confident in, you know, not feeling like out of shape like I did a couple of months ago. You know, now I can say, hey, you know what? You know, it's the worst way to get motivated, but like now I'm motivated to stay healthy, to eat healthy, you know, to eat good things and not, you know, go out and get a pizza every week or, you know, go out to dinner 2 nights or 3 nights a week. I reflect back to the last conversation I had with my dad, which was probably about 3 weeks before he died. It was November of 1993. And, you know, I knew the time was coming. I knew the end was near for him. And, you know, I remember he said to me as we sat there that we worry about so much useless shit. We let our lives get overcomplicated with, you know, keeping up with the Joneses. Who's got the best car? Who has the biggest house? And I was thinking about that the other day, and it's true, you know. And so now that's kind of the mindset I'm trying to adopt now, is that life really is too short. You know, I don't want to die at 51. You know, I want to be around another 30 years. I want to see my kids grow up, be successful in their lives, you know. And yeah, we do worry about a bunch of dumb shit sometimes. And I want to stop doing that. I want to live, enjoy life. And even if I get cancer again, I'm going to keep living. I'm going to keep enjoying life. I'm not going to let it get me down.
What was that? What is wrong with you people?
Listen over there, you bear slap. That was a bear whack. Oh my God. Right in my eyeball.
Go back. Oh, battery exhausted.